Welcome back to Jack and Flash. Thanks to Harrison Agents, Tasmania's real estate experts.
You're pumping yourself up there.
Well, I am a little bit, actually, and that was certainly not deliberate. Gee, that sun's coming through beautifully today. I wasn't sure, Jack, we're going to get a lot of cricket in today, but I'm
we're
thinking...
in trouble, Flash. There's rain coming. The rain.
Yeah, it doesn't look right.
Off the McCain's ad, as Marge would say, the rains are here.
Yes. Well, and next week, I mean, you're one day out of quarantine, you're back home. It's a beautiful time of the year, normally this time of the year. You're getting close to it, and it's absolutely garbage, freezing and raining over the next week. I want to talk about footy. Lots of footy topics to talk about.
Yeah, which is unusual, isn't it? We're sort of in that little flux before the AFL draft, and usually we don't talk footy, but it's still front and centre at the moment, isn't it?
It is indeed. Now, I've got to say, our producer, Mitch Scott, was onto this about 3 days before I heard anything else. And the first topic is the obvious one. Liam Jones, fellow Tasmanian. I think he was named as the captain, wasn't he, of the potential State of Origin team? Which
I'm happy to serve as lieutenant to Liam Jones. Very, very good player. And it's well, I think this was inevitable that someone, and we've seen with Danny Vernon in the AFLW that she has refused to get or doesn't want to get, the COVID vaccination, and Liam Jones finds himself in the same boat. It's a very, very strong stance to stand up. It's sort of become the public norm.
The Corey Irving or the Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and I didn't know whether we would see it in Australian sport. I say it's inevitable, but I still had a gut feel that it would just be done by every player so they can continue to keep their jobs. But Liam Jones finds himself as the trailblazer and doesn't want to get the COVID vaccination, which, I mean, the ramifications, Flash, obviously there's a spot on the list coming up to the draft. If he doesn't get vaccinated within the next 2 weeks, I think it is, then he can actually lose his job. He can be delisted. And that's something that Carlton have to really think about, because if he's so adamant that he's not going to get the vaccination, then he's not going to be allowed to play, just due to the fact that not only the AFL laws are and rules guidelines are that you've got to be double vaccinated to play. It's the state government laws as well. So he's not going to be able to travel. He's not going to be able to train. And they've got to make the decision on whether they keep him on the list or if they go to the draft and select another player. So it's certainly a big hill to die on.
Such an important player as well at the Blues. Do you like the fact that we're at the stage now where the people are named publicly? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Look, I think it's, to be honest, I think clubs get on the front foot with this sort of stuff and just rip the Band-Aid off, because ultimately when all the players go back to training, whether it's the first or 4 year players back on November 22nd, or in Liam Jones's case, he would be going back to training until December 6th, that this is going to be what the media are looking for. They're going to be hot on it. Who's not at training? Yep. Who's not at training? Who hasn't been double vaccinated? And the rumour mills will start swirling. I might not be going back till January 10, so no doubt someone will write an article about me maybe not being double vaccinated. But certainly it tears me a little bit, because I still think you should be able to have your own choice on whether you do it. And sorry, he does have his own choice. But
he does.
We're in a world now where the mandates are in, and it's clearly public health is put right at the forefront.
It's such a difficult one, and again, it's out of our pay grade to talk about it. I'll be frankly, I had no interest in getting any injections or vaccinations, but it really got to the point, and bloody hell, I've just got to conform, and you've got to do it. Now, I'm not telling Liam Jones what to do, but I mean, we've seen in America in terms of financially, Kyrie Irving, who's a $40 million Supermax player.
Yep.
He would have signed an extension for 3 years for 120 large. He won't be at Brooklyn going forward. We're not talking those figures with Liam Jones, but this is financial implications here. I mean, he's a fringe All-Australian type defender for 4 years. You know, he's transformed his game. It's a bit of brass he's not going to perhaps get if he... That's difficult.
Maybe, I reckon close to $500,000. Yeah, close to $500,000 maybe. That
good player.
And you're right. He's made a career out of he was right nearly on the scrap heap. Oh. He was nearly on the scrap heap, and someone
tried him. The Dogs forward. It just didn't quite work out. We've seen that happen in the history of footy many, many times, and he's been one of the great. Leo Barry was one that come to mind. He was high half forward and couldn't get a game, and then turned into a star. And he's done the same thing.
Managed to put that back to Sydney somehow. I don't know how you've done that.
Well, I'm just giving you an example. Yeah. Come on.
Thoughts with young Finger McGuinness. I just want to. He's unfortunately the sort of. Well, we know that Conor McKenna had the positive. It's ended up being a false positive last year, but young Finger McGuinness has tested positive to COVID-19 and is really the first AFL player to test positive. I feel for him.
You feel for him. And
I really feel for him. But it's inevitable now that players are going to be testing positive just due to the fact that it is in the community in the big footballing states. And that
he's fine.
It's going to be an issue going forward, though, David. Next year.
It doesn't matter. He's been named. I mean,
not him being named, but
that he's just got it.
Let's say round one, Dustin Martin tests positive 2 days before round one. Life is moving on, so we will have to play without Dustin for 2
10
weeks.
days,
so
2 weeks.
So we've seen it in obviously bigger sports,
and that's what I'm getting at. We've been watching this in the NFL and the NBA for 2 years now, and how they've navigated around it. And I guess, from my perspective, nothing to see. It's going to happen. Next year there's going to be players missing semi-regularly. Hugh Greenwood. That was fascinating.
Wasn't it fascinating?
Well, I mean, he had a super year, led the league in tackles at least per game average, whatever it was, and this loophole where we've seen this a bit, and where you delist somebody and re-rookie.
You've got to delist 3 players.
Is there a pride thing there? Is there from individually?
How do you make the choice to choose him?
Well,
he tweeted last night, still on the primary list, still on the same contract, still been medically cleared to train and play for over a month, still at the Suns, still see everyone round one. Was happy to cop the old clickbait. But
now, can I ask you this?
Yep.
When he fell asleep yesterday, and he's away, goes with the fairies and thinking about life, whatever is he dreaming about Gold Coast round one versus whoever that may be, or the Jack Jumpers versus Melbourne United?
I reckon.
Now that's the question.
Let's get him on
next week.
Next week, we'll the whipping
and
boys.
I need you to
listening.
eyeball him when you ask him, because I reckon deep down he would think, righto, I've made a career of this for 6 or 7 years. I'm going back to my favourite game.
You've been in the radio caper a while. It's hard to eyeball someone over the airwaves.
We'll get him on Zoom so we can see his eyes.
The other one that I wanted to put on the agenda, Skinfolds. There's been a lot made of Skinfolds. I don't think 99.5% of the 99.9% of the population would never had a Skinfold test. It's a part of being a professional athlete. You've got to do body checks. It is what it is. Like, there's players that don't know how to train yet, young players, and the Skinfold test is certainly one.
I hate the word cancel culture because it's generally garbage by right-wing nut jobs, but this is one of those ones where we just missed the mark there. Come on, sort it out. Give me a spell.
All right, well, we're certainly gearing up for a big second hour here. You're listening to Jack and Flash right here on SEN Hobart.